Hello and welcome to the Washington Week Webcast Extra. I'm joined around the table by Peter Baker of the New York Times, John Dickerson of Slate Magazine and CBS News, Ed O'Keefe of the Washington Post, and Beth Reinhardt of National Journal. If we've learned anything about the politics of scandal, it's that it's not the TV show, the real politics of scandal, is that it's almost always too soon to write someone out of the script. So it is with New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, who may have had a bad week, but he's not done yet. That's because he's still in demand, it turns out, Beth.
Right. Just so happens, 2 months before this scandal, Chris Christie was elected chairman of the Republican Governors Association, which is a very convenient perch for someone who's thinking about running for president, because you get to campaign for governors all over the country in states like Florida and Virginia and Ohio. And in turn, those governors, of course, are very grateful to have someone with big national name recognition like Chris Christie come to their state and put their arm around them and say what a great guy he was. So the first kind of test for that is coming up just in a week. Chris Christie is expected to go to Florida to campaign for Rick Scott, who's considered one of the most vulnerable Republicans in the country. And it's probably the governor's race to watch, I'd say, this year. So it's a big deal. And now it's a little bit awkward.
Well, John, let me ask you a little bit more about, we always treat, the very famous Time magazine cover, the elephant in the room, Chris Christie as the big kahuna in this race. Boy, it's so hard to talk about him.
Yeah,
without
right.
saying the wrong thing.
Yeah, where are you going?
But why? What is it about him? Is it? It's not just his folksy appeal. There's something more that people see as electable.
Well, I think it's a mix of things. One is that he has got there's something about him that all good politicians have, which is he has a presence. He has some force to him that he makes his own weather. He makes things happen. And that's powerful, and it attracts people to him, Republicans and Democrats. And the results. I mean, in his last election, he won women voters against a woman candidate. He won 33% of Democrats. He won the majority of Latino voters. Those are all groups that Republicans nationally would love to see. And that's part of the other appeal for him, which is that he has... There's a storyline you can put together for how he might be a Republican nominee that would win. Now, the trouble with that storyline is that you have to kind of go past very quickly how he would get through the Republican primary.
Well, that's kind of the problem here, which is everyone can see him kind of as a general election candidate, even running against Hillary Clinton. But it's hard to imagine how he survives everything that comes before.
But I think what's more damning in that context is his decision to take Medicaid money as a part of the Affordable Care Act, his support of gun control, his support or working with President Obama in the waning days of the 2012 election, all of which the Dream Act, absolutely, oh my gosh,
not to appeal the gay marriage.
Right.
It's a lot of resentment.
And the Dream Act in particular, where he didn't just say I support the Dream Act, he said those of you who don't are, and then he basically said you're unfilling, unkind, giving really sound bites to the Democrats. Right, exactly.
So, but as far as we know, people aren't peeling away yet.
Well, privately, I had a couple conversations with Republicans who said, the timing is terrible, he's definitely damaged. But for right now, at least publicly, elected officials, party officials are saying, we welcome Chris Christie to Florida. And I think we'll see if that changes as this scandal unfolds.
There's so much time.
Peter, let's talk about another, I don't know if it's a scandal, but we're certainly waiting now to see what the president's going to say about this NSA leakapalooza.
Right.
And now we're expecting him to come out next Friday, and finally say, this is what I think we should do about this.
Right.
Do we have any sense about where he's heading?
Well, we have some sense, yes. He's going to embrace many, if not all, of the recommendations of a White House review panel. It came up with 46 ideas for how to put in more safeguards for privacy, curb the excesses, if you will, of the surveillance state, if that's the way you view it. One of them will be most likely taking out of the government storage of these vast metadata software. So it'll be held by the telecommunications firms, private firms, or maybe some sort of consortium. He's likely to put a public advocate on the secret, who will advocate at the secret surveillance court, so that somebody other than the government talks to the judge when they go to the judge asking for permission to do these things. But there's a fight. I mean, a lot of these national security agencies are concerned that some of these go too far. The FBI director, Jim Comey, came out and very publicly pushed against one of the ideas out there, which is to require a judge to approve these national security letters before they can go to businesses and seize records. So it's not quite done yet. There's still a fight going on.
Okay. And speaking of fights going on, we're still keeping an eye on Capitol Hill because there is a very consequential bill. We call it the Farm Bill, but is it about so much more than that, which is also just slogging its way through Capitol Hill, but there are actually negotiations going on this key part of it.
Well, there have been negotiations going on for 3 years, but they did clear the most high-profile hurdle, the one that most Americans are familiar with, and that is food stamps. They have agreed basically to cut about $9 billion from the program over the next decade, and the way they're doing it is like the best possible way they could ever do it to get votes on both sides of the aisle. As much as you don't want to hurt food stamp recipients, what they're doing is really making some administrative fixes that will allow Republicans to say, we finally fixed one of those big social welfare programs, and a fix that Democrats have to sit there and say, you know what, this is a commonsensical thing, and I've got no real good reason to vote against it. It's basically states have been manipulating heating assistance money to give people more food money. They're not really supposed to do it that way. They're going to fix it and save $9 billion.
You know, the Farm Bill is like unemployment insurance extensions and emergency money for storms and hurricanes. That used to be a slam dunk because everybody had a horse in the hunt.
Yeah, and I would
dog in the
fight,
dog whatever.
Yes,
horse in the race.
Right.
But I would point out one thing: you will get a Farm Bill probably by the end of the month. It will be passed for the first time ever. The budget agreement, the omnibus spending agreement, and the Farm Bill, which are sort of like the big three that Congress does, were all negotiated by women.
Well, that explains everything.
Hear us roar.
and I think, you know, after all the talk about women ascending into Congress, they now can turn around and say, we did something.
Consequence.
Is the omnibus going to pass?
Yeah. The indications are it will be released Monday probably. They're going to have to do a 3-day extension of spending through Saturday to give the Senate enough time to do it, but all indications at this late hour on Friday are that whatever's in there is just enough.
We are so holding you to all of this.
I tell you, I love Mondays and I hate Fridays these days up there because you think it's going to happen and it doesn't.
Except you like Fridays here. Thank you.
There's that.
Thank you for joining us. While you're online, send me a few questions to answer in my first web chat of the year at noon Eastern Time, Thursday, January 16th. And we'll see you next time on the Washington Week Webcast Extra.